Alright guys, today I'm going to tell you the story about a UFO that flew over top of us when I was about 12 years old. And this happened in Jacksonville, Florida, actually just south of Jacksonville, Florida, on St. Augustine Beach, and it happened about 1974. So I was about 12 years old, so I liked to collect shells and rocks and stuff at that age. And of course I was looking down at the ground. I was looking down on the sand. Now, we had traveled there in an executive camper. My parents were divorced and my mother was remarried to a man named Rick, who owned a motorcycle shop. And he was rather wealthy. I think he was a millionaire. And he ended up buying this most expensive camper, travel camper that you can get, which is called an executive. So we drove down to the beach that day, and we were walking on the beach. No one was swimming. We just were walking on the beach. And right about that time, I was looking down on the sand, for shells and whatever. And I looked up above me, and right directly above me, and it wasn't that high, maybe 2 trees high. So, like a oak tree or something, 2 trees high, maybe a little less than that. There was a silver disc. It looked metallic, and it had clear, defined shape, not like these. It didn't even look that big, but it was directly over my head. And I remember thinking at the time that I could take a rock, and if I threw it really hard, I may be able to hit it. But I told my mother, I said, hey, look at this. And she got very scared. And she told me, don't look at it and go away from it and go stand over here and, don't look at it anymore. And, of course, I didn't listen. I did go where she told me to go, but I did turn and look at it again. And it actually went from the beach, out from the beach, and then went out over the water, okay, slowly. And it was out about the first line of breakers, waves, and it was not very far out in the water and not very high, about maybe as high as a house would be, a single family home. And so it went out over the water and was out about the first breakers, and it was just sitting there. It was horizontal to the waves, and it was on the same line as the horizon, not angled like this one. And I was looking at it, and everyone else on the beach started to look at it too. My parents were standing together. Well, my mother and stepfather were standing together and pointing at it. I remember them pointing at it and, whatever. There was about 6 other people on the beach that were also pointing at it. So right around that time, I saw it was like this, and it went like literally from a dead stop to a very high speed, like that, like it went like this. So it was sitting. Wait, it was sitting, and it went like that. It was a silver disc, literally like flat silver disc, like a classic UFO. And it was going south. So the beach was on the Atlantic side. If you look at Jacksonville Beach, or St. Augustine Beach is where it was going south towards the Cape Cape Canaveral, where they shoot the rockets off. And so it was gone, and people were looking, and it was just gone. And then right after that, you heard this boom, and I remember the sand jumped off the beach, and some actually got in one of my eyes. And I didn't know what the hell was going on. But right at that moment, 2 Air Force jets went by at the same height as this object was, and also were following it. They had their flames shooting out of the back. I didn't know what that was, but now I understand it's afterburners. So they were full throttle with afterburners on, and the 2 of them, like a flight, was heading south towards the Cape, and they had no hope of catching it, I think, at all. But they were kicking, and what it was, the boom was the sonic boom, and it actually lifted the sand up off of the beach. Now, the interesting thing is, in America, it's illegal for military aircraft to fly above the speed of sound unless it's war situation. So they were actually told to chase that thing down, and they were actually breaking the law at that moment because it was overpopulated area. Interesting. We didn't say much about it that day, but it was in the paper the next day that there was a Air Force jets chasing some sort of unidentified object. My mother showed it to me. My mother told me never to look at these things, and she was very scared, kind of worried about it. She said that bad things could happen if you threw a stone at it or you looked at it. Years and years later, I asked her about it again, and she seemed a little hesitant, but she did talk about it. And then as she got older, I asked her about it another time, and then she started to really get a little weird, like her mind didn't want to discuss it, if that makes any sense to anybody. So that's the story of the UFO on St. Augustine Beach.